Let's see where it's leaking. Oh, hole right there. Totally a big hole, because woo-wee, yes. So we're gonna have to fix that first before we do anything else. All right, just a little update on this. We now have, I didn't want to film everything because this is just tedious. In here, there is a sandwich plate for a Mk4 oil cooler. It runs the lines underneath and around, and the oil cooler normally sits right about here in front of the radiator core support. And a rat had chewed through one of the oil lines, made a nice hose, nice hole in the stainless steel and right into the hose. So whatever that hose was made of, the rat liked it, and anyway, I had to replace it. So I've got another line. But I had to remove the sandwich plate in order to remove the thing, which meant I had to take the whole front of the car off in order to get there. And this little, this is an oil pressure switch that had to come out of the way. You can notice everything's really tight in here once you've got extra stuff. So this is the oil pressure sender for the gauge in the cluster. In the center console, and then right next to it we've got the hard line for the AC compressor, and then right there is the factory air to water oil cooler, which I left in place because it doesn't really hurt. And in order to get the Mk4 thing to work, I would have had to put an extra sandwich plate, which just increases the chances of oil leaks. So as long as I've got the same chance of oil leaks, I may as well leave the factory piece in there. So now we're in the reassembly process. And of course, one thing that makes working on cars in San Diego extra special is when there is a fire. So there's another fire in the neighborhood, so I'm going to go grab a respirator just because it's getting really smoky. It does seem that the firefighters have got it under control. My wife tells me they've not called for backup, so that's a good thing here in East County, San Diego. But there's a fire, so yeah, good times. So I'll be putting on my respirator while I continue the rest of this work to put the car together. Before I completely reassemble it, though, I'm going to make sure that I've got the oil cooler line secured to the cooler and turn it on and run it up to temperature before I start putting everything together, just to look for leaks and make sure that everything is working as it should. And then I'll reassemble it. There we go, my sexy respirator, and let's get back to work.
20 minutes later.
All right, here we are with the test fire. Let's see if she leaks stuff all over the place. Hopefully not. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let her warm up all the way so that the thermostatic sandwich switch opens up and we get oil flowing all the way through the oil cooler and everything's at pressure. And yeah, so it's going to be a little while. Let her warm up and check for leaks, and hopefully we're in good shape and we can put her all back together. So I'll check back shortly.
5 minutes later.
So the good news is there are no more oil leaks. The repair for the oil cooler was successful, which is awesome. The not so good news, and it's not necessarily bad news, but we have to have a pause on the transmission repair because as I brought it up to temperature, one of the things you have to do is roll it slowly through all the gears and then check the fluid level, and my fluid level is still pretty low. So I've got to get some more fluid. I don't happen to have any on hand right now, so I'm going to order some, and we'll again bring it up to temperature, fill it up, and at that point we'll be able to test the transmission. I'm going to have to reset the TCU with VCDS, and that's the transmission control unit, and after that, hopefully we'll have a working car. So cross your fingers and knock on carbon fiber. Hey again, all right, so just a little quick update here, and I'm going to try to keep it quick. I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity since I have the fluid completely drained out, and I didn't do this previously in the process, to install the external transmission fluid cooler. Now, as you may know, the factory equips a VR6 transmission and the 01M and the Tiptronic and the 097 and a bunch of them with this water-to-water, fluid-to-fluid heat exchanger kind of thing that sits on top of it, which really doesn't do the trick. It helps warm the transmission up quickly, but it also keeps the transmission running really hot because, as you may know, the VR6 runs super hot, so 220 degree fluid running through there to cool off the transmission doesn't really do the trick. So I'm going to take that out of the loop, put in an aftermarket cooler, and that really should have been like that from the factory. And the other byproduct of what we're going to get to do with this is I'll now have these extra coolant lines from the radiator, which I'll be able to use to add an external auxiliary radiator like the R32 has. So my VR6 Corrado will have more coolant capacity for the radiator itself, as well as better cooling capacity for the transmission. Now, why would I want to preserve the transmission? I mean, I'm going through the trouble of fixing it by changing out the valve body and the solenoid ribbon cable with the updated one. And the reason is I'm trying to be a man of my word. For those of you who have asked in the comments of other videos, why not just swap in a manual transmission? Well, the fact is I have, sitting on the floor of my garage, a built 02M. Yes, that's it. Something like that. Anyway, I have a 6-speed manual transmission from the 24-valve GTI ready and waiting to go into my VR6 Corrado, and I'm sure that when I put it in, it will be glorious and I will really enjoy it. But the fact of the matter is, I have a Mk4 R32 as a daily driver, and I get my kicks already with the manual 6-speed. It's awesome. I love it. I will look forward to putting that into my VR6 Corrado, but I made a deal with my wife when I bought this car that I would leave the automatic transmission in there as long as it continued to function and not blow up. And the valve body wearing out and the solenoid cable breaking, you know, they're relatively easy fixes, right? It's taken me a number of weeks just because I don't have a shop and I don't have a lot of time on my hands, so I have to work on it here and there when I can, hence this series of videos as we're dealing with it. But I can swap those out and I can fix them relatively quickly, and if that keeps the automatic transmission working for a longer period of time and I get to enjoy driving the car without having to do the whole manual swap, the manual swap will happen. It will happen at some point. I'm still collecting some parts I need for it. I still have to get my axles custom shortened in order to do the swap, and as a matter of fact, I'm waiting for the axles right now to even be able to do the custom lengthening. I'm going to have that done at SD Drive Shaft or the axle shop. There's a shop here in San Diego that does that sort of work, so they're going to take care of that and a couple other little bits and pieces, and I'll be ready to go with that transmission swap, which will happen eventually, but not now. Right now I'm just trying to preserve this automatic transmission, which has 203,000 miles on it, so who knows how long it'll last. Maybe a week, maybe a year, I don't know. But as long as it lasts, I'm going to be a man of my word, keep that thing running. We're going to finish out this project, get it as good as we can go, and then eventually, yeah, manual transmission swap. First things that we're going to do as part of this process is bypass the actual coolant that is running through this factory cooler. So we're going to clamp off the coolant hoses and remove them, and then simply tee them together so that they are just continuing to make a loop, but we've bypassed that cooler. Then we'll be able to remove it and install the fittings into the top for the aftermarket cooler. that is going to go down there in the fender well. These holes here that I just drilled, instead of using the flexible kind of thing, which you would use this to attach in front of a radiator, I can actually use some bolts to give it a little bit of more secure fit. I mean, these aren't bad. I could just pass them through and use this and secure it in place. But where it sits on the bracket, it doesn't really give it a whole lot of buy-in, because these are designed to go over the fins, not this little part on the end there. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and use some bolts. I could rivet it, but I'd like to be able to remove it for maintenance if I need. Okay, what I ended up doing is putting 2 bolts and screws in the bottom and one of the flexible ones up at the top. So it's just mocked in place right now. I'm actually going to have to take it down in order to run the hosing and get that to the right length, because we don't want excess hosing. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. It'll fit real nice. Up top here, we've got the coolant lines clamped off, and we are going to try to deal with those wonderful factory hose clamps, the spring-loaded ones that are always placed at an impossible angle to get to. So that is certainly the true case here. The cooler is held in by 2, I think they're 8mm bolts. So I'll just go ahead and remove those Allen bolts, and the whole thing should lift out of the way. I'll be replacing the O-rings there in the top of the transmission, and these O-rings here, you can see that they're old. Actually, they're pretty hard, so we'll be replacing those. And in place of that, this assembly, this was the cooler assembly that sat like this on top of the transmission. In place of that, these are going to be sitting instead. So the kind of sits in this orientation. These guys nestle down, allow the fluid flow through here, and then we send them out to the external cooler. So some new O-rings, trim the hoses, get it all attached, and we should be up and running with this. Take a little bit of transmission fluid, just because there's some around here. Just kind of wet the O-rings here. It's going to slip in here, and this assembly will go down onto these things, and we're going to provide a nice snug place for the hoses to connect to. Now this coolant pipe here is gonna want to be secured probably up like this in order to not be crimping, and I think I have a factory hook bracket with the two C-clamps that'll work right there to hold it in place. So I'm gonna go hunt for that before we take any further steps. Okay, the cooler is in place now and the lines are run and it is secured at 3 points, so it should be pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the wheel back on, maybe clean this stuff up just a little before I do that, and then we're ready to fire it up and add fluid and let it run through the gears. All right, so here we are at the part of the process where we fire up the car, let the transmission warm up to temperature, and then we check the fluid level after the fluid's all run through. Now it was a little low before. I've added a little bit because I knew it was low, and we lost a little bit more when I took out that transmission cooler, and it's going to take more to fill up the additional transmission cooler that we just added. So let's see how it goes. Let her run up to temperature.
5 minutes later.
Okay, the engine's all run up to temperature, the transmission's up to temperature. So we're gonna go ahead and run it through each of the gears slowly. So I'm just gonna put it into reverse. And see, okay, we do have actual motion. Reverse is working, that's good. Just put it in neutral. And the idea is to put it through all the gears for about 10 seconds. And so I'm just gonna let off the gas, no load. All right, the motor appears to be playing well with the transmission, that's good. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of gas, make sure that, yeah. And just checking, no leaks. And I go ahead and check the fluid level now that I've run it through the gears and make sure that we're still on the spec. It's time to call in our good friend VCDS from Rostec, and we are going to go ahead and clear any codes that there may be in the system so that we can reset the transmission control unit and then set the initial settings, and hopefully everything will be working the way we want it to now. One of the challenges of doing custom work on a car is when you do stuff like add an oil cooler or a transmission cooler that didn't exist from the factory, you sometimes run into problems of fitting it all back together when you're done. And what I had before is the oil cooler was shifted farther over towards the center, and I had this notch here which made it fit just really nicely and provided a little bit more airflow. But now that I've moved it slightly, it's not fitting, so I'm gonna have to notch this just a little bit more to make it all happy. So we're gonna take care of that. Now that is notched out a bit more. I'm going to check it for fit first, And then if it's okay, I will paint this to cover up the rough edges, maybe file it just a little bit so that it doesn't cut into the cooler there. And if it doesn't fit, then I might have to box out a little bit more here just to get it nice and happy. So let's see how it does. Well, the wand does choose the wizard, apparently, and so this is come into handy a lot, but she is now back together, and let's see if she works. Back on the ground, and theoretically ready to go. So haven't given her a road test yet. Let's do this. All right, well, here goes. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna fire her up. All right, she turned on, which is a good sign. Of course, she was running yesterday, so I really wouldn't expect something different, but it's a Corrado, so things can change, as you know, if you have a Corrado. And I am leaving all the VCDS stuff hooked up. I haven't put my shifter assembly back together yet, just in case I need to come in here and scan for some codes, which I suspect strongly will be the case, just because Corrado. Let's see how things go. All right, so here we go. Out on a small road shakedown cruise down the street if everything is behaving. But so far, I mean, she's moving and she's in first gear. It's not in limp mode. That's a very good thing. Okay, I'm gonna pop her into drive, and we're gonna go up the hill that's by my house, just in case anything goes wrong. I can at least coast back down the hill to where I live. So let's see how this goes. She is actually working, which is great. She is shifting a little hard, which could be because when I installed the valve body, I didn't have as precise of a torque wrench as the folks from Kansas City TDI recommended that I have. They said that it really takes a very fine one to get it exactly to 44 inch-pounds of torque. You don't want to over-torque it, and if you do, you can get some hard shifts, which is what I'm experiencing, but it is shifting and it's working. So the question is whether or not driving it a little bit will loosen it up and it'll start to shift as normal, or if I'm going to need to drop that pan again and undo those those little Torx bolts and retorque it, having borrowed a finer quality torque wrench that will get us to exactly 44 inch-pounds and no greater. But in the meantime, I'm going to let it warm up all the way, and we're going to take her out on the freeway and give her a proper shakedown, just to see if a couple of heat cycles will resolve this problem with the hard shifting. But I'm glad that she is shifting and she is working. So yeah, back on the road. So we've had her out for a freeway spin. We've officially put 25 miles on the road and everything's working great. So I am gonna call this mischief managed and a job well done, though it may have taken a really long time to get it done. But we are at the end of this component of the Corrado project, as it would seem. So that's great. There's always lots of stuff to do in the car, so there will be many more videos that we'll be filming, and a lot yet to come. But for now, we have a drivable, fully functional Corrado, Narcon carbon fiber, and yeah, very happy. Thank you again to the folks at Kansas City TDI for doing a great job rebuilding the valve body and getting us up and running. We bought a little bit more life out of our automatic transmission, and that gives me a little bit more time to collect the parts that I need to be able to do the 6-speed manual swap when this does eventually cease working. And in the meantime, I've got a great Grand Tourer with an automatic transmission that I can comfortably drive in traffic, and hopefully it'll drive even better now that we've done the external cooler for the transmission instead of the factory heat exchanger. So anyway, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, share. It really helps us out. And if you feel like supporting this work at all, if you've never heard of Patreon, it's kind of like an online tip jar where you can throw a few bucks to your witcher there, oh Valley of Plenty. So toss a coin and toss a like. I hope to see you again soon, and we will catch you next time on Cliffjumper Cars. Thanks a lot.